Hi there, this is Mr. Rancourt, and I'm here to read Investigation 1 with you. And this is about the animal called the long-tailed widow bird. So follow along with me. The long-tailed widow bird is a small bird found in sub-Saharan Africa. Males of this species are solid black with red shoulder patches. They have very long tails, up to half a meter in length, 2 to 3 times the length of the body. Males establish breeding territories in grasslands and will fly slowly over their territories approximately 1 to 2 meters above the top of the grass. When they do this, their tails are visible from 1 kilometer away. Female long-tailed widow birds are brown with streaks, have short tails, and do not perform this kind of flight. Scientists wondered why the male has such a long, conspicuous tail. One scientist, Malt Anderson, conducted an experiment to see what would happen if he made their tails either longer or shorter. So he wanted to make their tails longer or shorter to see if that affected their ability to attract a mate, if it made it more or less attractive. Okay? He divided the birds into 3 groups. He modified the tails of groups 1 and 2 as described in the table below, and group 3 served as the control group. And remember, a control group is just a group that is not getting any changes made to it. It's just the normal birds. Okay? So let's look and see what he found. So when he did this experiment, bird group 1, pause 1 second. Sorry, I'm back. I had a phone call. Okay, so let's go back to right here. So in bird group 1, the scientists cut the tail feathers of the long-tailed widow bird, the male, shorter to see if that made them more or less attractive to the females. For bird group number 2, he actually, instead of cutting their tails short, he actually made them longer by gluing on feathers from those that he cut from group 1. Interesting. And again, his purpose was to see if it made them more or less attractive to the females. And like they told you up here in group 3, it's the control group, so he left everything as is just to compare, okay? So he then looked at the number of new nests in each male's territory, and the results are shown in the graph below. So let's look at that real quick. So remember, group 1, he cut their tails shorter, their feathers shorter, okay? And it looks like, according to this, the mean number of new nests per male, because remember the male is the one that's creating the nest. So the average number of new nests per male was much less when he cut their tails shorter. So apparently cutting their tail shorter makes them less attractive to the females. In group 2, he made them have longer feathers, which seemed to make them more attractive because you see that more nests were created after they were given longer tails. And you can see here group 3 is just a control group, so there's nothing to compare it to, okay? So according to this information right here and according to this information right here, one can assume that tail length affects the ability of the male. So in conclusion, one can assume that based off this information right here and the graph right here, that the length of the tail feather affects the ability of a male to be attractive to the female. In other words, look down here. When they have shorter tails, the females are laying less nests, or they're creating less nests because they don't feel like that there's an attractive male around to reproduce with. If you look at group 2, apparently, according to this data and this data, that males that have longer tails are more attractive